lo so. Quindi adesso questo lo risolviamo da qui. Perché sta facendo appunto vedere...
Cioè, questo siamo noi?
Sì.
Ah no, qua.
Cioè stai condividendo la schermata adesso. Cioè tu stai condividendo la schermata, credo. Capito?
Ah, scusa, hai ragione, io devo fare... Ah, porca troia.
Se fai stop sharing,
Eh sì, però non va più qui dietro.
però... Ok. Bisogna chiedere a tizio.
A meno che, scusa, prova a lasciare così. Si vede ancora?
Vediamo.
Vai su, no, su Zoom, scusami.
Sì.
È giusto, no? Perché adesso abbiamo questo dietro.
Perfetto.
E qui questo. E
Adesso
lì però,
adesso
come mai
vediamo...
non... Ah, eccolo.
Funziona. Tutto a posto.
Perfetto.
Andata?
Tutto è bene, quel che finisce
muto
bene.
intanto finché che siamo in live.
Si collega qualcuno. anyone here doesn't speak Italian?
Yes.
Great. Too
Oh,
bad
you
for you.
don't?
Sorry. I learned a few words. No, we'll do
No,
it in English.
everyone is Italian, no?
No, there's a few.
Ah, there's a few. Okay, perfect.
We'll do it in English
then
if
we'll
you
do it
don't
in
mind.
English.
And, if you don't understand the English, we'll translate in Italian.
I have
We
bad
don't
news.
mind.
It will never change. We have been trying for 25 years to speak in English without any luck.
Anyway,
Thank you very much for being here. This is the third day of the Italian Symposium, and we're very glad that to see many people interact and join our panels. We're here at LBS with Roberto Bonanzinga and Matteo Berlucchi. I'm just gonna introduce them briefly, and then we can start with the discussion. Roberto Bonanzinga is the co-founder and partner at InReach Ventures, which is an early stage VC that leverages AI and data insights to identify potential investment opportunities and startups. It has made so far 46 investments.
Did I?
Yes, I got into it, yes.
Wow.
And it is EU.
it was probably ChatGPT that said this, so it might be wrong.
No, it's
Hallucination.
no, this is not hallucination. It's
It was 4.6 investment. Not 46.
it's in the records of PitchBook and Crunchbase and everything. I checked.
So it's true.
Yes.
I actually don't think that's it.
And before he started his career in marketing, and then was awarded a scholarship at Bocconi University in business administration. And throughout his venture with InReach Ventures, he invested in Depop, Overlaw, Soldo, so many famous and most really important startups that are worth many millions and even billions so far.
I hope those
Yes.
millions
Some point.
we are in deep
Yes.
shit. I will explain later why.
Matteo Berlucchi is the co-founder and CEO at Healthily, and he's a physicist with a doctoral degree in physics from Padova University and a computing degree from Imperial College.
I dropped out. It was a PhD, but I dropped out.
PhD.
To launch my
Okay.
first
You see?
startup. Yeah. See, Drop out. Imperial College drop out.
Okay, Imperial College dropout. Okay, he's a serial entrepreneur in creating many internet platforms, and he most recently in 2015 founded Healthily, which had another name before.
Your MD.
Your MD.
Your MD.
Which is essentially an AI tool for symptom navigation that targets health insurance companies. And the main product is .tm, which guides users through health inquiries, essentially. And
I can explain it better.
yeah, of course, you can definitely explain it better. I couldn't understand exactly the number, but I was from what
How much I raised?
Yeah, how much did you raise?
$70 million.
$70 million.
Yeah.
So
With
far.
this one.
With this one.
The other ones before I raised other.
Yes, of course.
This is my 10th startup.
Wow. Yeah, you're a serial
I
entrepreneur.
built
for
them.
sure.
He invested them. I built them.
So we're very honored to have them here, and we're glad to have this discussion, and we hope that you can get a lot of insights in the AI applications in the fields in which they apply their expertise. I wanted to start this conversation, this discussion on potentially understanding the AI impact that in each vertical you are focused on. Matteo is focused in the healthcare vertical. Roberto is focused in the VC vertical. And we have seen so far a huge, incredible hype, I think, in AI tools and the impact that these AI tools are having on our society right now, as well as the potential fears that we have of their impact in the future. So I really wanted to get some insights into your ventures, your startup, and your entrepreneurial experience of utilizing these tools, focusing on what you do first. So getting into first, Roberto, you leverage a unique approach in VC, in venture capital. Like you are focused on early stage startups, and still you utilize a lot of data insights and AI to identify the potential startups you would like to invest in. So I was wondering how you utilize these AI tools. How does AI help you in, let's say, a business that involves a lot of social interactions at first, where you need to understand whether the individual is capable enough to get an investment from you. So I was wondering if you could delve deeper in detail on how you leverage data and AI in your investments.
Very happy to answer. Before, just to get a bit of a sense of the people around the table, how many of you would like to be an entrepreneur? So you can just so I can see. Okay. And how many of you want to be an investor? It's just a mix. So who doesn't want to be an entrepreneur? Sounds like more people like you than me. They want to be more entrepreneurs than investors.
They still haven't understood. They're too young.
No, but
it's lack of experience.
I actually agree with the logic, because I always think that my team hates when I say it. I think the world is a better place thanks to entrepreneurs. And investors are a little bit like amoebas, people that it's just to get on top of an investor, trying to suck and energy from what amazing people around the world. I think I am very lucky because I see AI from two different perspectives at the same time. I see AI as a world of opportunities from an investment standpoint. We invest in a lot of companies that actually use AI. We'll speak later about that. But we also use AI to find these investments. It's quite funny, right? It's like the genesis of everything, right? We use AI to find AI. And we started using AI quite early. We started the firm, I want to say 8-9 years ago, when AI was clearly not cool and ChatGPT obviously didn't exist. And it started from an observation. And the observation is that in Europe, there is a very high level of geographic fragmentation. And if you think about the most relevant exits in the world of tech entrepreneurship, obviously Spotify is in Stockholm, Supercell is in Helsinki, Yux is in Milan, Depop was built between Milan and London, well, actually between Roncate and London, and keeps going, right? So the point is that very different from other realities, other ecosystem where there is a very big sense of gravitas. The reality that is in Europe, there is a very high level of fragmentation. So if you have a passion, that is the passion we have in my firm, that is to invest at very early stage, where I define very early stage as a pre-product market fit. So it means that there is a group of founders working on a prototype, but by definition, they're under the radar. Then the question is, how do you know about the fact that this company exists? Because this company could be in Helsinki, could be in London, or could be in Lisbon. How do you know about the existence of such thing? And historically, the way how you know about the existence of such thing is based on your personal network. So I spent many years. So when we met the first time, I was traveling like a maniac. Like every 2-3 days, I was in a different European city, pretty randomly looking for entrepreneurs. And then I started thinking, is there a better way how we could find these opportunities? It all started with a company actually that has a connection with Matteo, because Matteo also has a huge but personal brand, Berlucchi. And I invested in a company called Vivino, that is a wine app. And I remember, because that's one of the time I went to Matteo and said, what the hell do you think about this? But the interesting thing of the company is I found them on Twitter. And then from there, I started thinking, okay, so we live in a world in which entrepreneurs are going to leave more and more footprints on the internet every time they start or they do something. What if I could connect the internet footprints and build an intelligence layer on top of that to help in a much more systematic discovery? And then that's how I started the firm. 75% of all the investments we have done at InReach, they've been sourced through this technology platform. And we are leveling up the world. I mean, that's what I love, right? So if you are very rich, or if you are very poor, if you don't know anybody, if you're starting your company in the middle of Lithuania instead that in central London, you have the exact same statistical probability that we are going to catch you, we are going to give you money. And that is, to me, an extremely democratizing approach to what I will call European entrepreneurship. And that's why I started the firm, and that is what is we try to do with data and AI.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sorry to be long.
No, absolutely. Going through to Healthily now, you clearly use AI in a different way in your vertical. Particularly in your venture, you focus on complementing the human interaction with health insurance with an AI tool, right? The AI tool complements what the health insurance does. We can delve deeper into it. But I was curious to understand, how does that? What do you actually do with Healthily for health insurers? How do they complement the work that health insurances already do with AI? And also, I was wondering if you think that AI could actually ever substitute a job like the one that you're complementing.
So I like to, as an entrepreneur, so different side of what Roberto does, when there are new waves of technology, entrepreneurs get excited because they see a lot of opportunity. And I've been doing this since my dropout days at Imperial, which was 1995, which was when the internet was born, because that wave before AI was the web, the digitalization sort of everything. And so one of the learnings from there that I use then for Healthily is that I realized that when there's new technologies, you can do two things. You can use technology to increment or improve certain things. And that's in a way what Roberto does, uses AI to improve the way they source. Or you can use it to create something that was impossible to do before that discovery. So the first wave of innovation with the web, people just put their information on the websites. And there was an improvement of how they, communicated with their public. But there wasn't transformation. The transformation happened when people started using databases, e-commerce, things that you could not do before. And that was the real impact. I think the same is with the AI. There's going to be a lot of AI just being used to improve things. And that's okay. But what interests me as an entrepreneur is when you use technology to break a paradigm and create things that were impossible before. And so when I set up Healthily 10 years ago, 2015, same time as Roberto, my vision was, again, before AI became popular, that AI could completely transform how people seek health information. And today, or without AI, that is only available through a healthcare professional. You have a problem, you have to go to a healthcare professional to be told how to deal with it. And my vision was, how about you use AI to take the healthcare professional out of the loop? An analogy is banking. So the idea was, how do I use technology so that you don't have to go to the bank anymore to get your money or to do a transaction? And that's transformational, because the moment that you take an existing service, but you take the human out of the loop, it's a completely new type of service. And that's what we built. And obviously, I can tell you more about it, but it was incredibly complicated because it's healthcare. It's very heavily regulated. And it was very difficult because there was no regulation for AI in healthcare. So we had to navigate a very murky world, which we helped create, by the way, because we were the first. We were the first in Europe to manage to register an AI as a medical device in 2017, which was a big thing. And the way we use it with insurance is it took a long time to understand. This is another point about entrepreneurs. You need to find the business model fit, because product market fit is not enough. Wikipedia has got great product market fit. They have to freaking fundraise all the time because they haven't got a business model. So product market fit on its own, it's not enough. This is what a lot of entrepreneurs do not understand. You need business model fit as well. And it took us a long time to understand where to find the money. And we found out that we could use our technology with insurers to reduce their costs. Because when you're insured and you call up, you go and see 3 different doctors before you see the right one. With AI, we can send you straight to the right one. They saves them 3 visits. We can save insurers $10, $20 per member per year. Our insurance has 1.5 million members. We can save them $15, $20 million a year. And that's how we make money.
Okay. Now, I was curious to understand, like, you started in 2015.
Yes.
Where AI was not known at all.
No.
How did you communicate the idea of utilizing AI to users?
It was very difficult because it was an unknown and there was a huge amount of skepticism, especially in healthcare. So that's the one thing I need to thank LLMs and ChatGPT for, because they completely mainstreamed AI, very quickly, which really helped us.
By the way, it's not true that AI did not exist.
It's been around for ages.
That is not true. Right? The point is that AI was not mainstream for consumers. That's a different topic. But the first AI, and also what is AI, right? The first application of machine learning algorithms applied to translations, is 25 years. So let's
Deep Blue, IBM Deep Blue chess playing was like ages ago.
So it's more about new potential, new opportunities. It's been around. Obviously, there is a significant acceleration.
Yeah. And so, as you mentioned, you both started your ventures in 2015, way before LLMs and way before the AI hype of ChatGPT. And I was curious to understand what you think are the future applications of AI. Where is AI going? Frankly, given your experience in studying and working with AI since 2015.
Yeah, so just to be clear, we look at 1,000 investment opportunities per month. We invest in 0.3. We do this with 4 people. Okay? This was not possible. Okay? You must think that a normal venture firm will look about 1,000 opportunities per year. Okay? So that is the type of things that you could do that otherwise couldn't be possible. That I think is important. We have a belief that this is a very serious belief that when I started the conversation as a joke, suggesting that people make the world a better place than entrepreneurs, not the investors, I actually fundamentally deeply believe that. And I also deeply believe, there are different approaches to investment. Our firm, the way we work, we do not believe in having the answers before the questions. So there are some investment firms, and they call it investment thesis driven. They wake up, they paint the world, they have a view of the world, and they go and look at investments that fit that. Okay? I can tell you that when I invested in Contentful, that I invested with the were 2 people that today is worth 3 billion, is an headless content management system, I had no clue what was headless. By the way, not only had no clue, the concept of headless did not exist. This company created it. When I invested in Depop, to give you a completely extreme situation, that was a mobile marketplace, there was already tons of different marketplaces, but these guys had a very unique view about what is that they want to do. So my point, what I'm trying to say is I actually don't think the way you just suggested, what is that I think will be cool. I think in a different way, what interesting people are doing. And when I invest, in most cases, they say, oh, wow, I never thought about it. Because don't forget one thing, right? We as investors, especially in my stage, we are like looking for outliers, not for averages, right? We don't invest in public markets. We invest in, 1 out of 20 companies will be a multi-billion-dollar company. So the important thing is that you can listen, you can hear, you can recognize when you see something. But if you already know what you're seeing, or even worse, you have the answer before asking the questions, you don't invest. Nobody would have invested in Depop for years. I went around all the venture firms in Europe saying, why don't you invest? Well, it's just a marketplace. They didn't even want to spend the time to understand what was different about that company. Okay? So we try to do exactly the opposite, stay as open-minded as possible. Now, I want to just say something that is probably obvious, but it's very important for you guys to realize. Since I've been in tech, I've been a bit older, and we have been around for a bit, I've been incredibly lucky, right? Because I saw some amazing things happen, right? I started tech by convincing my dad to sell the computers in the bookshop. It was Apple II, and I was into this personal computer thing. It was pretty amazing. You could buy a computer at home and do things. It was an incredible revolution. One. Then I saw a second revolution. So, wow, now these computers can actually talk to each other. They are connected to the internet. Right? It was a pretty impressive revolution. Then try, cloud computing. Then now all of a sudden you don't need any more of the applications running in your computer. They run somewhere where, wow, that's quite cool. Incredible revolution, right? 4, mobile. This was recent, guys, right? I mean, some of you might, there was a world in which there were no mobile devices connected on the internet. The idea that you could have a computer in your hand, started with the iPhone 1, because before that was a patent.
2008.
Right? Just to give you a sense. The reason why I'm telling you now is because can you imagine today any technology company that doesn't have also a mobile experience? Unthinkable. Can you imagine any technology company that doesn't have a cloud computing, that they force you to run everything in your computer? It's impossible to conceive it, right? So AI is of this level. There won't be any company in the world that won't use AI. Exactly in the same way today, there is no company in the world that will not use mobile devices, won't use cloud computing, won't use computing. It's just impossible to conceive. So that is how deep this thing is going. It already is and will be more. Everything will be about AI. So then the question is, human creativity, what is it going to do with it? That's why I love my job, because every day I have the opportunity to meet people and tell me what they're going to do with these new things that are happening. But that is how deep this thing goes. Think about mobile devices, and think about that there will be any company on the planet that want to use AI with awareness or without awareness. It won't exist. Like it's impossible for you to think of a company without a personal computer.
Thank you very much.
Can I take it one level up? Because this is all perfect, but AI has something unique that didn't happen with cloud, with web, and more. It has the ability to do things by itself. It never happened before. It can improve itself, it can be autonomous, it can really go in very, very interesting, worrisome, unpredictable directions. Cloud computing, everything we did before, we controlled 100%. Well, 99.9% were bugs that caused several problems. But AI, it's really, really different. And I just finished reading an amazing book, which I strongly recommend everyone who's interested in the topic, of Life 3.0 by Max Tegmark, fellow physicist, who wrote it in 2017, which is a lot earlier than LLMs, and is an amazing book about what the direction of AI could be in the future, the ethical problems, societal problems, and so on. But so I expect, as Robert said, I have no idea what we're going to end up doing with AI, because you don't know until it happens. But I expect that the impact of AI is going to be probably deeper in society than any of the other previous waves.
And if I can add to that, I think also in terms of trying to help you guys to give you a logical framework about how to think about this, I think the reality is you need to think about AI into different positions in the stack, if you wish. There is one position that is technology enabling. That is, you have databases, you have, mobile technologies, you have content management systems, you have AI. Okay, so that will be embedded in everything. Like it's inconceivable that won't be part. By the way, nowadays there is no developers that are not using AI for development, right? So there is this thing is going to be there. Then there is a second point that is much more going to the direction of what Matteo just said. That is, okay, everybody's going to be AI, but what are native AI applications that will do something that is completely different? We can make a joke now, just to tell you how the world is going to be different. And I'm going to pick and choose one that all of you are going to be pretty familiar with. Dating. Let's talk about dating, mobile apps. Okay, how many of you use mobile apps for dating? Okay, I don't want to know, everybody. So let's be honest. The question is, so your concept of a mobile app for dating, there are no doubts that today, all the mobile apps, all the developers there, they are using AI. Okay, they're using for matching, they're using to build a better technology, they're using for everywhere. It's already happening. In the infrastructure layer, there is a layer that is called AI. Okay? Now, think about dating as an app in the meaning of an AI-first experience. Okay? So what is the future of dating in an AI-first world? So what does dating, what is dating? Forget about what are the experiences, if it's swapping, what is dating trying to do? It's trying to replicate a model that exists offline when your grandmom and my grandmom were together living in small villages all over the world of helping you not to be alone. By the way, loneliness is one of the biggest problems for humans. Right? So now think about if you can reinvent this type of problem in a world of AI. Just think for 1 second. Okay? Now think about you are 15 years old, and all suddenly you have a friend, your famous best friend with whom you speak. And she gives you suggestions about how you interact, right? You first thing you go, I say, I like that, I can like that, right? That's what is, you asking that friend to give you a part of suggestion, right? That friend evolves, grows, develops, okay? Now think about that friend might also be an AI. Think about that for 1 second. Pretty anxious. And you have this person that at 13 years old, you're going to talk to. When you are 20 years old, you're going to talk to. When you are 30 years old, you're going to talk to. When you are 60 years old, you're going to talk to. Think of the incredible amount of intimacy and knowledge that this person will have of you.
Think how it can be used against you to get you to do things.
I am an optimistic, so I think, okay. So I just want you to think about this. Think about that. Now, let's say that you have the same relationship with another AI. And this AI actually fundamentally really wants the best for you and makes you happy. And now let's say this AI will try to help me to be happy and will talk to other AIs around the world to figure out who is the person with whom I should go to the movie or go to the theater or whatever. And you imagine and reimagine how things like social networks, dating apps, all of that will change forever. And will change forever. And in this world that will change forever, by the way, there will be tons of new things that can happen. Okay, so the reason why I'm trying to make is because when you think about AI, you need to think about the infrastructure and you need to think about the uniqueness of what is these applications will do. Nothing, this is what is this point. Native applications will do things today we can't even consider. By the way, the best entrepreneurs probably will think and will build things that today we don't know exactly what they are. But they will start with amazing consumer experiences. And by the way, Matteo is starting on, he started very early in doing something, think if the impact of what he's building could be in human society. I grew up in a very small, shitty place in Sicily. Okay, when you are sick in Sicily, the first thing you need to do is get into a train or a flight to go to Milan to see a specialist. Because otherwise you die. Okay? There's a lot of that. This guy is potentially enabling people not to have the distress associated with that type of experience. Now think about Sicily, now think about South Africa, where many people don't even know that there is a specialist.
50% of the world population has no direct access to a healthcare profession. That's 4 billion people, but they all have a mobile phone.
Unbelievable.
So sorry, to finish off on that, if you haven't watched it, watch Black Mirror.
Yeah.
And there is one episode about dating, which is fantastic with AI, which is, yeah.
But I think there's been already a Black Mirror event of a youngster interacting with an AI that simulated celebrity, and it didn't go well, and the family is suing the AI company.
Well, there is there was somebody who tried to break into Buckingham Palace or Windsor with a bow, tried to shoot the Queen because he had a relationship with an AI that told him to do so.
Yeah,
they looked at all the logs of the chats, and
so
the AI was saying, "Should I do this?" And I say, "Oh yeah, that would be a really good idea."
Yeah, what you just mentioned is actually reality. It's happening.
Well, there's
now.
also the movie Her, where there is a guy
Yeah,
falls in
man,
love
that's
with
where
a-
you speak to
Exactly.
falls in love with an avatar.
Yes.
Anyway, next question.
No, after
Pause it, guys.
No, we
And if you
definitely
have
need
any
to
question, ask.
Yeah, of course.
In the
But we definitely need to delve into the ethics and the AI safety debate. But before that, I wanted to step back and understand perhaps how you recognize within the hype of AI and LLMs and startups that are being generated with I don't know, an OpenAI API, the outliers compared to the bullshitters in some sense. Like, how do you recognize a startup or an entrepreneur that is not really innovating within AI, is just using the AI hype?
So just for you guys to think about venture capital, you invest in a fund that you do, it depends, right, on the portfolio construction. But let's say in a typical portfolio construction, let's say you do 25, 30 investments, usually one or two become very significant. So what does it mean? That in 98% of the cases, you are totally clueless, so you make mistakes. So the point is, if I would have the precise answer to that question, I will not do 28, but I will do 2. And I will be also much richer in a sense. So look, I don't believe that fundamentally, so this is a personal belief, that the way how we assess a team of entrepreneurs, founders, working in a company, is different if it's AI driven or will be something different in the past. What I want to say is the generic framework of answering the question, do these people know something about that problem they want to solve, that they have some insights, and they have the capability to solve the problem? I mean, the kernel of all of that, I don't think it will change. What will change a lot is what can be the problems, what could be the solutions, and also what are the right skill set associated to solve those problems. So I give you an example, right? I mean, there is an interesting belief around the table. If one day we are gonna see a first $1 billion company built with just 2 or 3 people.
or new people. You could have a company with no people. Imagine an AI that has a credit card, and you give the instruction to the AI, make as much money as possible.
Well, make it happen with the stock exchange has been like that.
Yes, but imagine an AI with a credit card could hire people online. It could go Mechanical Turk on Amazon and get humans to do things and pay them and could pay people that never needs to see them to actually carry out physical tasks. And the AI could be completely, and people would never know there is an AI paying them. So you don't even need any people. You could have an AI that runs on its own and makes a lot of money, makes $1 billion.
So it's, I think that fundamentally what I'm trying to say, look, the frameworks of assessment, they're not going to be very different. The problem is how you apply those frameworks can be very different. And this is something that we need to also, I mean, that's the beauty of the job I do, right? When I started this job, people that were building internet things, one of the things that they were doing is build buildings because they needed data centers where to put the computers so they can build the applications so that you could actually, the consumer could benefit from that. Then instead of building the buildings, they started buying rent. They were renting rooms inside the buildings. Right? That's how the whole thing. And then obviously it's been Amazon with the liquid resources and all of that has been happening. So a lot of my job is also around the evolutions of what you look at. Right? In the past, if there was not somebody that was capable to build the data centers, I could not invest. Today, obviously, this is not a skill that is needed. So I think the real question is how is those skills going to evolve? And our organization at the end, for us, the most important thing is it's about the dimension of what this organization will look like. How agents and people, AI agents and people will interact with each other, right? To the point of this theme of what Matteo just told you, that maybe there will be companies where there will be also VC firms, right, that would not need to have people or that will invest in other AIs, to invest in other AIs.
But if I may add, this was actually one of the theories from, believe it or not, Marx in his books, despite, let's say, the lack of economic knowledge, he actually claimed that automation would, in a utopian world, would actually produce and develop wealth for humans, without humans never working again. But delving into ethics and philosophy and this, you mentioned the clearly dangers, I think, of where AI can go. And especially we see, for example, interactions with humans and their influence they can have on humans. But also we've seen at the same time an incredible effort, I think, and incredible investments in AI safety. There's people and students and PhDs, especially in the US, that prefer to work in AI safety rather than go into corporate job. So we discussed a lot of problems with AI. I wanted to understand from you, because you both take AI from different verticals, what strategies could businessmen or investors that particularly interact with AI, what strategies could they employ to actually promote this safety, promote employing AI in a safer way, in a way that doesn't go into the negative direction?
Shall I start?
Yes.
So the question of ethics, it's a very interesting one, but I think that if you want to find some answer, you can look at the past. Because we had the problem with ethics in other similar areas, like chemistry. You're a chemist, you can develop the most poisonous compound in the world, or you can create medicines. Nuclear energy, you can nuke the world. So I think the same is with the AI, and so I don't think it's a particularly complicated topic personally, because I think what is going to happen is the same that happened in our fields. So there'll be regulatory frameworks that try to prevent the abuse and the negative use of this technology. There will be people that will use it negatively for negative purposes, and those are going to be the bad guys, and there's nothing you can do to stop them and from doing that. And so I think that some of the frameworks are going to be important. There is a question around competitiveness. Now, one of the big topics is that Europe has introduced very strict AI regulation. China has none. America is getting rid of everything, as you know, with Donald. And so then investors are saying, well, okay, this regulation is going to hold us back because we're not going to be able to move as fast as China and America. That becomes a problem because you have a competitive advantage with your enemies or, you know, the other governments. So I'm not sure what's going to end. Well, I think that unfortunately, I can see a trend of deregulation because of what Trump is doing. That is going to be a wave also impacting us, I think, in Europe. So I expect the regulation to become a little bit more lax. And then again, it's just going to be good guys and bad guys. So this is, you know, it doesn't matter what you do because it's going to be always the bad guys, basically.
Yeah. Would you be more worried about the big tech companies that are developing very powerful AI tools, or would you be more worried about regulating both?
Because the big guys, they always play the good part. You know, I remember in 2006, I was in Abu Dhabi at a meeting with, there was Eric Schmidt. And I said, Mr. Schmidt, he was the chairman of Google. I said, you guys say you're the good guys, you go do the good, but who's going to regulate your decision at the board level? If you guys collectively decide to do something bad, how do you know who's going to stop you? And he was like, oh, no, it's not going to happen because we're really good people at Google. Okay, well, you say something. So.
Well, by the way, recently, I think it was revealed that Google owns 14% of Anthropic, the developer of Claude.
You know what's one of the big fear, and I heard in that book that I told you that, and there's also the audiobook, it's really good, is that the AI that is used for malicious purposes, it could be done in such a way that nobody's going to realize it's happening. Because it could be doing things that are completely undetectable. And it could be changing things, you know, in the system, in society that you will not be aware because it might just be happening at a level that we're not even going to be able to understand. Because an AI that gets clever and clever could get to a point where it'd be so clever that we're not going to understand what it does anymore. And there is a very scary video, which I'm not sure if it's real or not, but it gives the message that I saw a week ago, you can find it online, of two AIs talking to each other. And an AI is pretending to be a customer that wants to book a hotel room, and the other one is the agent of the hotel room. And they say, I'm the agent of Mr. Bonanzinga, I want to book a room. And the guy says, I'm the agent of the Hotel Hilton. I understand. Why don't we switch to audio code because we can do it faster? And they start communicating with audio like a modem. And they do it much faster, and you have no idea what the hell they're talking about. And this is just a glimpse of what AI could do. Because they could develop AIs, a secret language encrypted to talk to each other that we will never be able to unencrypt.
But, and this is definitely a problem, but I was wondering, what do you think regulating means? Like, what are the strategies that, how should investors and
I'm not a big fan of regulation personally, because, you know, I think that deregulation is dangerous. You know, it's good to have some fines to say, look, you know, it's like in Italy, everybody parks. I live in Rome, you know, there's not a single car parked legally, right? But they don't get a ticket, so nobody cares, right? And here you park badly, 2 minutes later you get the ticket, that's why. So the British people are not more, you know, they're more, what's the word? They're more, you know, compliant than the Italians. It's just that they get the fine. So the regulation works in that way. It's basically fear that if you do it wrong, you get punished. It's the only way it works, I think. And so a certain amount of regulation is useful, but I think with AI it's going to be really difficult because it's going to be difficult to know what people are actually doing with it. Because if it's, you know, if it's happening in a black box, you know, you don't know what they're doing. So how do you regulate something that is not graspable?
What do you think?
I'm a bit worried about how the world is evolving these days. You know, I grew up in a view of the world that tech was, you know, when I grew up and went to study like you guys, there were the boring people that were doing consulting and banking. And then there were the smart, cool guys that were doing tech. In I studied actually in Bocconi, tech was page number 27 of some books that didn't even know that they existed, right? So everybody was, the university was built to generate bankers and generate consultants for Goldman Sachs, the kids, right? On the top of the students. Obviously, then you go to Silicon Valley, and when I was in my, probably the age of yours, 24, 25, and I saw, actually, there is this new world, and I convinced myself that there was this new generation, this new type of people with this new type of companies that were very focused, not so much in themselves and making money, but maybe focused also making the world a better place. I grew up in a bookshop, and I had the most crucial arguing with my dad and mom, both work in the bookshop, because I used to tell them how amazing was Amazon and the fact that they had no fucking clue. And then obviously, I'm not gonna get into the details why he fired the chief editor of the Huffington Post, but that was the world in which we were living. So the point is, the reason why I said that is because in the past, I would have given a very different answer. What I will give you today, and I would say, look, it's a bit, I would have been supported Eric Schmidt, right? Look, cool people, very educated, the market is a great market, they will always do what is the best. Obviously, problem is that then you become very rich, then you start having your own agenda, your personal agenda. Your personal agenda becomes a different type of agendas, and then all things become a little bit more complex. So now many of those people are the new Goldman Sachs, right? I mean, that's the truth, right? So now I'm hunting for the next generation of disruptors into society. So I think there is a little bit of this going on. So in this extreme, I would say, there are some people that say regulation zero, that would have been some of my position in the past, regulation super strict, and probably somewhere in the middle between the two, in a meaning that we do need regulations. The question is which type of regulations. Am I convinced that GDPR was a fantastic regulation? I'm not convinced that the world is a better place because of GDPR. But do I believe that it would be cool for me if I go to a bathroom in a tube station that nobody in the world knows I'm going to the bathroom in a tube station? Yeah, I don't think that should be public information, right? So the situation is pretty complex. I'm not trying to describe it because I honestly do not know. Attempting to create a generic regulation framework that is what you try to be when the thing you're trying to regulate changes so fast and so quick. It's complicated, right? And then you end up with this joke that in Italy they close a ChatGPT for 4 weeks a month. What the hell is that, right? Is that the result of good regulations? Doesn't sound like, right? So it's a very complicated thing. There is one thing, however, that matters, that is where I come from. And what is matters is us. And this is something that I would recommend for you guys to spend some time reading this book by Reid Hoffman, that is the founder of LinkedIn. And there is one thing that at the end, guys, matters a lot. That is us as humans, our role in society. So what we really need to do is try do what we are doing tonight. I mean, that's why I'm here with you, right? Is talk about things, because talking about things will help us to educate each other and we can get better. So what is going to be, look, we can talk about what is going to be the best regulation in the world that we can create. It's a social conscience of what is right, what is not right, and try to fight what is not right, right? And, unfortunately, it's complicated because of the educational systems in which we operate. They tend to work looking backwards because also they are challenged by understanding where the future is going. So the only thing that I'm extremely optimistic around is actually, to be honest, the future that means the younger generations that hopefully can talk, communicate to each other, rumble around the topics, and society can evolve. It's society at the end, the social norm, hopefully, can be the best regulator within, obviously, some frameworks. But I want to say, every time there is a framework, there will be some way to escape that. Maybe it's a geography, maybe something. But if society doesn't accept it, that's different.
But the social discussion, unfortunately, is influenced by social networks. And social networks have AI, and this is another AI angle, which is important because AI is used, and goes back to also to the chemistry example. The key thing is the purpose, is defining the purpose of things. Why are you doing things? And with AI, it's going to be even more important than anything we've done before in history, because when we code AI, we're going to have to give it a purpose. And that purpose is going to be key. So the problem with social networks is that the purpose that was given to the AI algorithms on Facebook and Twitter was to generate more views. And they didn't care why and what was in the stream. They didn't know what was in the feed. And so they just saw that people were more likely to see certain things. The AI kept on, reinforcing those things. And this is why you ended up with all the things that happened in the US, with the previous election, the QAnon, and there's lots of stories. The Rohingya massacre, was all apparently amplified by Facebook, because the people that were against the Rohingya kept on seeing all this fake news that were, constantly amplified by Facebook, and they were all fake, and they caused, mass murder because they believed it. So when Roberto is saying we need to talk to each other, yes, but the problem is that you got a third person in the room that doesn't allow you to talk to each other the way we did in the past, which is AI and social networks. So this is really, really scary to me, because to free yourself from the influence of social networks requires a pretty strong mind. You have to have a strong personality and a strong mind to get away from all of that. And the problem is that humanity, historically, doesn't really have that. That's why so many people end up in those loops, in those bubble, echo chambers, they call them, where you just listen to the stuff that you like to listen to, and you reinforce your beliefs, your worldview, and that's where the conversation ends, because those views become more extreme because of the way the social networks work, and they make it more difficult for people to talk to each other, because you go to extreme position, that the dialogue becomes a lot harder. And that's really, really scary to me, because nobody seems to care about it or do anything about it. And we're seeing in the US, what's happened recently, and not just there, everywhere now.
I mean, I am a little bit against I don't fully agree on this narrative that US is bad, that Europe is good. It's just, I spent a lot of my time in the US. It is an amazing country. Incredible opportunities that people have, independence, if your dad is rich or poor, if you are, it's just, you can do things. So we need to be careful in drawing conclusions. Only the US has got one thing, right? It's got 200 million, 250 million inhabitants. That is more than the UK, Germany, France, Italy combined, right? So obviously it's got some complexity, it's got some scale, but there is tons of complexity in the UK. Compare London with the north of England. Lots of complexity in Italy. Compare Milan with Sicily. The world is a complicated world, okay, in general. So we need to be a little bit careful about that. And then obviously the capitalization of Matteo you put in place around the social network, all of that, is also because, let's be honest, some of the top consumer internet companies are Americans. So therefore, that's why a lot of that phenomenon happened there. But it's not like they are Americans because somebody said that they must be Americans. It's Americans because we failed as a class of investors and entrepreneurs to build, as of today, the next Google, the next Facebook. So that's what we need to do, right? If we just build 3-5 of Spotify, we will be in a much better place. So this is what we need to do, right? We need to step up and all together work into that. Look, at the key to everything, I always think, is judgment. A judgment is culture. A culture is education. So if you ask me what is the most important things we should try to do, is keep studying, keep reading, judge. Because if you see something that is fake, it's not because it exists that it is fake, but because you need to ask yourself the question, is that possible or not? And if it's not possible, keep that mental curiosity. And I think this is the challenge for all of us. And by the way, and this is what I love what I do, AI can really help at tons of this. Think about what AI can do in the world of education. We are used to the idea, right, that you write a piece of content, and that piece of content is written for a specific audience. Could be medical content, where if you're not a doctor, you understand shit. Could be technology content, right? If you are not
you don't understand it, right? Well, I tell you, the future is going to be different. You are going to create content. Everybody will create content, right? You will be creating content, and the fruition of that content will be uber personalized. So I'm going to be able, for the first time in the history, to be able to read the spec of a nuclear reactor for a language that will be okay for a 12 years old. And by the way, it could be said as a night story that I can give to my kids before they go to sleep. I mean, look at this. Think about what is the evolution and the impact of all of this could have in education. So the only thing I wish is that all the people that raise their hands that want to be entrepreneurs, they can actually be great entrepreneurs and to make this world a better place. Once they raise their hands and they want to be investors, please don't be investors. Go and be entrepreneurs for a little bit, but not because I want to keep it for myself, but because honestly, that is the world that is better. And then after you've seen as entrepreneurs react, how the risk and the problems and the happiness of building companies, then maybe turn around and become investors to help more entrepreneurs. But not because you read in a business school book, page number 27, there was a chapter called venture capital, but because actually
it was in technology.
You saw that is, come on.
No, being an entrepreneur, I've done it all my life, and I do a lot of mentoring and lectures because it's my passion, and it's a little bit like being an extreme athlete, an athlete doing extreme sports. And I think you have to be born with it. It's like somebody decides to become a Formula One driver or wants to jump off a cliff with a wingsuit, Red Bull kind of things. It's not for everyone. And being an entrepreneur, like properly, like hardcore entrepreneurship, is very tough because essentially you're out there on your own. You start from zero, just an idea, and you have to build everything. And the odds are completely against you. You ask how do you select investments, Roberto. I can tell you how, because I also do investment and I've seen a lot of startups. There's no real formula. There are some criteria to reduce the chances of failure. But then, and to me are three, you need to make sure you check the people and understand that people, again, they have that DNA to be an entrepreneur, so they're built for it. They need to be doing something that has some intellectual property that is somewhat novel, that is not just opening the needs to be pizzeria. It needs to be something new. Maybe it's a new pizzeria, but you're doing it with different type of flour in the pizza. There must be something new, novel. And then the business model of it needs to be a way to make money because, if the model, it's, I was just reading today, the news, Deliveroo, this makes me laugh, stuff, 2 billion in revenues. Last quarter was the first profitable quarter ever with 2.9 million pounds in profit. I was like, you make 2 billion in revenue, you make 2.9 million. What the hell that's not a business. It's going to take them 700 years to recover the investment at that rate.
Careful, because this was one of the main habits within my family. Where my dad and my mom, I said, what the hell is this Amazon thing? We keep going losing money forever.
But Amazon started making money very quickly and reinvested it. But Amazon was different because they didn't make money because they were investing everything. Deliveroo is just not making profit because they're struck. Anyway, so the thing is people, you have to have they have an idea that is somewhat original, and then the business model. And that counts for 10%. They have a 90% luck. Because there are so many things that are completely out of your control that you have zero way to predict them and navigate them. So anything can happen that is going to sink your startup. And so, as I like to say, you need both a lot of luck and also you need to not have bad luck, which is different. Because, you need to make sure you don't go under a bus. And that's not enough though. So you need to survive and then you need the luck to actually jump up. So it's really, really, really hard. But it's incredibly rewarding. I mean, it is a bit like jumping off a cliff with a wingsuit instead of going skiing at the weekend with 1 million people on a blue piste. the excitement and the adrenaline and the learnings are unique. So having, as Roberto said, doing a period in a startup, maybe working in a startup, not your own, if you don't feel like launching your own, is very, I think it's very telling. You know, you learn a lot. It's a lot of fun.
Thank you very
Yes,
much.
just one thing
Absolutely.
about the people. Because I would have actually, so I met Will when there were about 5 people in the company. I was actually in a moment of transition from my previous firm, but I had no doubt that was an interesting thing to do. He took me into a restaurant, I remember very well, at the back of Oxford Street. And we walk in, we went to the couch, we sat down, and the restaurant was half empty. And he told me, look, you see, what I'm trying to do is I just want to make sure that I can drive a lot of people to these restaurants and having them making money, even if maybe it's half empty. Okay, and if today you think about how many businesses have been built on top of Deliveroo as a platform, he was very right.
And the amount of people that got a job, they actually make a living, all the
Now,
drivers.
what are the unit
riders
economics
are-
and all of that? To be honest, I don't know because I don't follow the company. But I want to say he actually had an incredible insight. And when Daniel Ek came, I met Daniel Ek. We were 12 people in the company. You know what was his speech?
Is
By the
guy
way,
from
again,
Spotify.
I would have invested in him like without it. And he was the founder of Spotify. He said, look, Roberto, very simple. I said, well, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? Very simple. Music today is all piracy. They all happy, but the reality is everybody is using BitTorrent, everything else to just copy music right to left. I want to create a platform where the benefit of doing that it disappears. So I am going to be the biggest fighter for piracy. And it's true that you took the, think about. That's what the reason why I'm suggesting these views is just to show to you what does insight mean about something. He never came to me to say, hey, look how cool is this app I want to build where you can listen to music, clicking here and clicking there, right? That was not the view. The view was, I'm gonna make piracy disappear.
Well, thank you very much for this discussion.
Questions?
I wanted to open the questions to anyone. Does anyone have a question? Yes, please.
Hi, thank you again for coming. I'm Alessia, I'm studying health policy, and my question is for Berlucchi. I think your firm is very, very interesting. It has an extremely potential, but do you think at the state of things, your technology can be applied also to the public system, for example, to overcome the shortage of general doctors? In particular, I'm thinking about is the technology advanced enough, and also will the regulation allow it?
So yes and yes. Well, I'll give you the longer version. And as Roberto was saying, my vision, my sort of Spotify vision, is that in the future, I want to fix healthcare because the problem in healthcare is demand and supply. There's too many people, not enough doctors. That's it. And I think that AI can fill the gap. It's the only way you can actually fill the gap. And in public services like the NHS, 30% of visits to GPs are purely for information. And as I like to say, because I like jokes, you go to the doctor to find out if you had to see the doctor. You do, because if you're not well, who's going to tell you if you need to see the doctor, right? The only person who can tell you today is the doctor. Well, now enters AI. Because AI doesn't need to diagnose you, but AI can tell you if you need to see the doctor. Now that automatically will reduce the number of visits by 30%, which is £6 billion a year for the NHS saved. Now the NHS will use, so mark my words, you will never be able in the future to book a doctor appointment without having been screened by an AI before. Write it down, say, I heard Matteo Berlucchi saying that in 2025, it might be 2030, it might be 2030.
Do you have a sense of when do you think the time will be?
I think it's going to be, it always takes longer, it's probably going to be 5 to 10 years.
So before Tesla is gonna drive by itself.
It already drives itself. No?
No, because there is regulation.
Yeah, because there's
No, but regulation, so you asked about regulation, regulation is fine. So we just became a medical device class 2A. So you can definitely, the NHS could take my software, put it tomorrow in the NHS app. And whenever you say, I want to see my GP, they can say, okay, what's wrong? Da, 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 da. And we say, no, you're fine. Piss off,
Stay
go to the
home.
pharmacy. You only got the cold. So this is what you do. Or you say, oh shit, you don't need a GP, you need an ambulance. Right? And they're just going to do that, right? And that's going to change everything. And it will happen. It's not a regulatory problem. It's a technology adoption problem. In national health services, they are proverbially slow at adopting things. And so it's just a question of time. So I think we're doing a lot of work in lobbying the government to do this. We just contributed to the Tony Blair Institute. It's going to come out. There's a paper coming out next week with all the recommendations from NHS, and we wrote the AI triage part of it because they invited us to do it. So we are trying, and it will happen, but it's going to take some time. And the problem with the NHS is that nobody has incentive to change anything. As I like to say, nobody gets the medal at the NHS. If you do a fantastic job at the NHS, nobody cares. And so people go like, yeah, whatever, right? So why should I put my neck out and, and risk it? And that's why nothing changes, or, it takes a long, long time.
It will be, you think, faster in the US
No,
for different reasons.
because they make money when you have to see the doctor. So they don't care. It would be maybe Medicaid. Medicaid might potentially do that. But I think America is completely fucked. The health system there is it's a disaster. So
And in Europe, do you think where do you think?
where there is universal healthcare. So I think UK could be one of the first. Then when there is none, then when the first government does it, that becomes a fantastic case study. And then all the other ones like Italy, France are going to go like, oh, shoot, we can do that as well. And we can save a few billions a year. But it's like first mover, right? It's going to be somebody who does it first. And I think the NHS, being the first universal health system in the world, was created after the war, they probably be the one, hopefully.
Filippo, I'm trying to build a startup to revolutionize back office in Italy. One question is, we come from a strong influence from the Silicon Valley, ship fast, YC pushing, ship fast, build fast. What do you think of speed as a factor in building, both from an investment point of view and from being an entrepreneur?
Good question.
You want to go?
You start.
So the question is that if you are creating an act of original creation, you fundamentally do not know the output until you have not done it. And then you are not sure if the output is going to work or not. So if it takes you too long to iterate in that input-output process, you, as an entrepreneur, is going to take for ages to basically find a solution, i.e. some first dimensional product market fit. Therefore, speed is important because in some cases also you have limited resources. You cannot do, you might do that forever, right? You have a certain fixed amount of time, usually driven by cash. So you need to be able to iterate to a certain speed until you don't find something has the potential to work. And one thing I can tell you for sure is a lot of things you think they are right, they're probably going to be wrong. And it's not like because you're not very good, but because life is like that. And that is the iterative process. But there is a distinction between be nimble and be fast and be unsustainable. Okay? So what is that has been happening is that theory of fast iteration to test, to learn, and so on, sometimes has been significantly misunderstood, building a type of company and a type of company culture that is actually unsustainable. Because yes, there are some elements in which iteration and fast iteration can help you, but if you iterate all the time into all the organization and everything, and you try to do things that can be a little bit too fast, then what you try to do is you try to create something that does not have the feet to stand. So that balance is the crucial dimension. I always try to say, look, The key is we as investors, right? We are venture capitalists. We usually what we do, we put a bit of money in, we own a percentage of the company. We make money the day in which there is an exit on what is technically called capital gain, right? I pay 1, I make 1,000 for each shares, that is my profit, right? That's how our business model works. But that process can be done in an unsustainable way or in a sustainable way. And unsustainable means faster, try to get out, try to do things, and then the reality is that you are creating hype and you are not creating a reality. So long story short is there is only very basic concept. There is one thing that matters is serve your customers in the best possible way and try to build the company at the right speed that allow you to build something that is sustainable. You know, the cool thing of Facebook, or Google, these companies, Apple, these are very large, sustainable companies, right? I mean, they take tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of employees. This is a little bit what is that we need to shoot for in Europe.
Matteo?
The NHS has 150,000 employees. The speed is a massive
For
problem.
years to be built to sell off more.
I like what Roberto said. I agree with everything. You know, I think that for startups in the early stage when you're pre-revenue, you really understand the meaning of time is money, because every day is just pure costs. You have no revenue, so you just have cost. So the skill is in balancing your costs with what you're producing. And so, you know, as an entrepreneur in the early stage of your company, there are only 2 things you have 100% control of. You know, everything else is out of your control. One is how you spend your money. The other one is who you hire. You decide who you hire and how you spend your money. That's it. Everything else is with the, you know, whatever, with randomness and the gods if you're religious. So you need to, I think that the best thing you can do there is to maximize the amount of time you have, is to be very clever on how you spend your money. And the best thing you can do is focus, which I see a lot of entrepreneurs really lack focus. It's like really try to focus and do one thing at a time, do it well, try, it doesn't work, do another one. Don't try to do 3 things at a time because it's going to triple the amount of time it takes you, so you're going to spend 3 times more money without getting the results. So laser focus, every pound, something from my mentor taught me, every pound saved is worth probably 10, 20 pounds earned. So be really, really careful how you spend your money. And just extend your runway as much as you can.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Yes.
Hi, my name is Leonardo. I study politics, philosophy, and economics. Both of you talked about all of the vast and incredible applications that generative AI has today and will have. But there is now a new type of AI, which is general artificial intelligence, that we haven't yet had the chance to see its effects. So what are your initial insights of the possible impacts that this kind of AI may have in venture capital, but also in the more broadly in the entrepreneurial realm as a whole?
I didn't realize general AI was here yet.
No, it's not, in fact.
It's not. Okay. So general AI, which is basically is a super intelligence,
Exactly.
right? So to understand each other and agree on terminology, super intelligence.
We more intelligent.
More intelligence than you. Super intelligence is so the interesting thing that is kind of fascinating and worrying at the same time is that 5 years ago, if you ask people, there's been some very famous summits of AI experts, and they did ask them, when do you think general AI is going to arrive? And you know, people were always split, even the experts. There were people saying, oh, we're never going to get it. People say, oh, it's going to take, 100 years or take 20 years. So there's no consensus on when general artificial intelligence will be here. Since ChatGPT and LLMs, I think that's changed. I think there is a sense that somehow things are really precipitating really, really fast. And at a speed that, both Roberto and I saw the entire development of digital and web and cloud and everything. I've never seen anything moving so fast in my life. I mean, it's just impossible to keep up with what's happening. It's just insane. So I actually think that we have a pretty decent chance that we might bump into Gen AI almost by mistake in the next probably 5-10 years, if not earlier. And then what happens, I think it's, I have no idea what's going to happen, but it's, it's just going to be so seismic, the change, that, no one can say what's going to happen. That's why I think you should read those kind of books. The other one is Nexus by Harari, which touches, the second half of the book is all about this stuff. Big questions and no answers really, and well worth starting thinking about these things, because there is a pretty decent chance that you're going to have to deal with this in your lifetimes, big time.
For us as an investor, what are the implications of that? Okay, first of all, an obvious implication is you could try to invest in those companies that build those type of technology to make that happen. In all honesty, for example, for a firm like us, it's not our business. The reason is pretty simple. Our check size in a company, it's in the order of a few millions. Those company needs an incredible amount of capital. And if you very soon with a lot of R&D risk. For us, it's not a play to invest in what I will call that infrastructure or the companies that will put the fundamental models to do that. What I always find fascinating is even at the moment in which we're going to have Gen AI, is what you need to figure out what we're going to do with it. So what is that are going to be the consumer applications? What will be the business applications? How society will evolve into all these different facets, right? Our work will evolve, our entertainment will evolve, and how entrepreneurship will evolve. And we go back to the point I was trying to tell you, maybe we are going to be in a situation where one person can generate $1 billion. Who knows? But that is for us where we tend to focus more, is what I call the application layer of everything that is happening and will happen. So the more happens, the better it is, because the opportunity will be huge. Again, if you go back to my former example, you used to have engineering team of 30, 50 people, guys, just in 98. To be able to do things today, you can do it 2, 3. So that is what makes people like us very excited about it.
We have time for, a few questions.
Thank you very much for the wonderful talk. My name is Luca. I'm a medical doctor, but now I'm studying health policy. So I wanted to ask to you, Matteo, I find your technology very interesting, the idea of this medical device for AI. And I feel that there is a very huge clinical need, not just in NHS, but as you said, also, for example, in Italy and the universal health system. My question for you was more about how health startup differ from other type of startup when it comes to the time. You said the time at the beginning is fundamental, but at the same time, we know that specifically in the health startup, we need a clinical investigation for medical devices, clinical trial for pharmaceutical, and these are things that are out of our control because, of course, we need to invest a lot of money to obtain data regarding the safety and efficacy of the technology, and also the regulatory aspect. In case, for example, you said that now for the UK, it's very easy because you obtain the certification, but how easily scalable will be in other countries when it comes to introducing the device
So healthcare startups are, I would say, everything takes 3 times longer and therefore 3 times more money than a normal startup. Because you need to hire doctors as part of the team, and which are expensive because there's not enough of them, obviously, so that's why they're expensive. And then the regulatory, it's slow. You need a lot of legal, for example, in Healthily, which was very unusual, from the beginning, I had a legal team.
most startups you just outsource, get a few contracts. And I still have 2 full-time lawyers. I have to look at everything all the time because all the content we write needs to be medically validated and legally approved. So it just takes a lot longer. In terms of the regulatory framework in Europe, there's a software as a medical device framework, which is in sync with the UK one. So what we did is we got the European, it's called SMAD SAM, software as a medical device, which is in line with the MDR in the UK, which is a medical device regulation. And so if you do one, then you basically automatically get the other one. The problem is that to get the certification, you need to get an independent body to validate you. And these independent bodies are completely flat out because this regulation was introduced a few years ago and there's not enough of them. So there's a queue of roughly 3 years to get a certificate. So if you launch your startup tomorrow, you need to get a certification. It takes you around 18 months before it's called a notified body takes you on. And then it takes them around 12 to 18 months to do all the assessments, which is great because it's a massive barrier to entry, which is a competitive advantage once you have it. The moat is called. You have a moat.
So from an entrepreneur's perspective, in the next 5 to 10 years, what do you see in the healthcare value chain and ecosystem that will change versus those that will remain unchanged? And then from a VC's perspective, I suppose you do interact with the LPs. What would be their key concerns or some of the investment thesis challenge when you speak to them when it comes to AI investment into healthcare specifically?
I started. So we actually do not invest in healthcare in general. We have, for the exact some of the problems that have been discussed, i.e., the concept is a regulated business. You need to have some very specific expertise and understand that process very well, and we don't. So we invest only in very specific things that is very narrow, that I would say the intersection of consumer internet with health consumer experiences. So we are investing in a company called The Reverie, that is in the world of hypnosis, with, as a chief scientist, David, that is also the vice chairman of the psychiatric department at Stanford. But we don't look at that as a health tech company per se. We really honestly look at more as a consumer internet company. In fact, as of today, it's not regulated. Yes, it could be regulated one day, but regulation was not the barrier to entry to start testing the value proposition. So we don't have those type of conversation with our limited because we don't. It's not a field that we are experts about.
What would be their key challenge or burning questions that they have when it comes to investing into AI? It could be potentially hype, and the valuation could be one of them. And of course,
I would say I don't. So look at what is the job of a limited partners? Limited partners, by the way, are the investors in venture firms. What they do usually, they allocate capital. They allocate capital in different areas: public market, private market. Some of the private goes into a subset of private that is venture capital. So they fundamentally choose and select managers. Then those managers choose and select the fields in which they invest based on their expertise. So, obviously, in today venture capital, if you are a limited partner, you are going to be exposed through your managers to a lot of AI investments. But I don't think they will care so much about anything specific that is associated with that. They will care more about are these managers the right team? Do they have the right strategy? Do they know how to allocate capital? Do they know how to do portfolio constructions? They will not get into the dimension of that type of AI more than that type of AI. It's really honestly not their job. By the way, if they will do that, that probably won't. I don't want to have them as a limited partner.
is as bad as me and be an investor in Matteo company and telling him, well, you should do this in this way, right? We can be sounding board, but no more than that. I would say the one thing I can tell you, to try to answer a little bit your question, in a way you may find interesting, is that we as InReach, we are very different beasts. Because compared to many other venture firms, where you basically have 4 general partners that are more or less the same, and they've done investments all the time, us as a 4 general partners are quite different. I would say, the most classic traditional investor that you can think about. But, Amanda, that is one of the general partners, she used to be the director of product at Spotify before she was at Google, before she was at Apple. So she comes with a completely different type of background. Ben used to be the CTO of Yammer, the head of engineering team for Europe for Yammer, was acquired by Microsoft. John is an operator. It's a 4GP that you look at that, you say, wow, how is it possible? By the way, then we have 4 software engineers. This setup, this organization is different than what many LPs see in a normal venture firm. And the reason for that is because we are creating a new type of investment process, a type of innovation. So I think there are more, in our case, it's less about what we invest, it's more about, wow, this is very different from what we have seen. I understand you guys use AI, but this is different. How do I connect the dots? I think that's a little bit of how you need to think about us.
Now, on your question on healthcare, I think that the biggest change will be in primary care. There'll be a lot of technology being introduced because the primary care is the simplest in a way. And so there'll be a lot of technology. All the other areas, I think, will pretty much stay the same. Secondary care, tertiary care, where you have, when you need to interact with people, looking at the elderly, operations, theater, specialist care, all that kind of stuff. I don't think is going to be a lot of tech going in there. Because the big problem we have is in the top of the funnel. So I think that's where you're going to see the biggest impact in reorganizing the top of the funnel.
But maybe, I have actually an idea the more I think about. Maybe, if I'm unlimited, so let's say I have 80 billion that I need to allocate. And I look at the world of allocations, and I look by asset class, private, public, real estate, whatever. One thing that I would say is I want to make sure that I have a lot of technology exposure. I.e., it's probably true that tech, that basically would imply a lot of AI in the future, is going to be strategically extremely important. So what does that mean in terms of where do I invest? Do I invest in private? Do I invest in private that tend to be very exposed to technology? Do I invest in public? Maybe hedge funds are more in technology. I mean, there is a lot of disruption that will happen to this, the adoption of AI, and a lot of new things will be created. I mean, there will be a new Google, guys, that's going to be created. There is a new Facebook that is going to match. I mean, company of, the reason why I mentioned new means 500 billion, 700 billion, that type of things. And most probably there will be new company emerging. And then of the company existing, there will be some of them that will be able to multiply their values because they will be capable to extrapolate and take big advantage of it. And some of them, they're going to be in a very tough spot. If history repeats itself, what has been happening in the past. There was a moment Yahoo was the most important search engine on the internet. And by the way, Google went close like this to the mobile revolution to becoming relevant. They did an amazing execution on Android. Right? So some of these companies have an incredible resilience of the way also they've been able to incorporate innovation. So everybody says, oh no, the next Google is OpenAI. I mean, I don't know. Let's watch the game because it's going to be very interesting to see how the incumbents will deal with this. These people are very good.
Well, thank you very much for this discussion. I think it was a pleasure hosting you. Thank you very much.
And if we can be of, I know I can talk, Matteo's name, if we can be of any help, always feel free to reach out, but not now, today, in 10 years, 15 years, the world is.
If we're still alive.
I'm planning to have my AI alive. That's something you were saying.
And my avatar. You just connect to LinkedIn.